In this segment of Audit Austin Code Compliance, I'd like to introduce you to this young man. He's a really nice guy. His name is Jeffrey Todd Wilcox. He's an Assistant Division Manager with the Austin Code Compliance Department. If we look here, we can see Jeffrey Todd Wilcox, Division Manager, Austin Code Compliance. He is a current registered code enforcement officer. He's held that position or held that certification since April the 6th of 2011. Here on the list of city employees, we find him, Jeffrey Todd Wilcox, a division manager of the Code Compliance Department, a white male, hired on July the 28th of 2003. Annual salary is $86,964.80. All this is a matter of public record. Mr. Wilcox, being a division manager, when the city started getting a lot of complaints about City of Austin properties that might be in violation of city codes, all these things were routed to him so he could deal with them or handle them. And there is a policy for doing this, but he didn't follow that policy. And he didn't follow that policy under the direction of Carl Smart. This is one of the locations. It is 8660 West Highway 71. It's past the Y in Oak Hill. This is an Austin fire station that was turned in for work without a permit, electrical service run to a dryer to supply a clothes dryer by tapping into an existing circuit. The Romex wire is zip tied to the bar joist and vent piping. The supply line for the washing machine is an extension cord run up a wall across the drop ceiling and then back down the wall. So this is right off what I turned into 311. I did not give my information. I did say that I needed to remain anonymous, as at the time I was a city employee that could face retaliation. I turned this into the code department on 4/29 of 2014, and they closed the case almost 5 months later. It took them that long to investigate. But you can see on April the 29th, I turned it in. It was July the 1st. Mr. Wilcox said this building is owned by Travis County. It will research to see if we have jurisdiction to enforce building permits. He's a division manager with the code department, and he doesn't know if he has jurisdiction on Travis County buildings. Not that it's a Travis County building. So that was in July. In September, a couple of months later, he states, I verified with Austin Code Department Assistant Director that we do not have jurisdiction to enforce city code on county-owned buildings. A division manager for the Austin Code Department doesn't know how to look up a building, and it takes him months, and then he just closed the case. So these are the photos that I took while I was working at Fire Station 37 on 4/25 of 2014. You can see here the utility sink, and this is the drain line for the washing machine. They tied into the hot and cold lines here and ran it across the wall. There's a close-up of the drain lines. And then they used different types of PVC and just screwed and nailed it, tied it to the wall. And here's the drain line for the washer set. Yeah, that works pretty good. This is the problem here. The electrical service is coming through a drop in the ceiling, and you can't use extension cords or Romex like this for permanent wiring. This is the Austin Fire Department. But hey, that's Austin and it's the fire department. Who's going to turn them in? So here you see the power cord for the washing machine, and this is the power cord here for the dryer. It goes up through the ceiling, so it comes across the ceiling and back down, and the extension cord just comes down the wall and plugs in. This is how they power the washing machine. You cannot use an extension cord, more especially go up and over a false ceiling. This is a standard fire code violation, but yet the firefighters did it. Now let's look at how we have the cord for the power coming up here for the dryer. This is a 220 volt circuit. So it went through the ceiling It comes up through the ductwork, and they taped it onto the pipe here. Then it comes up over here. You can see it coming up here to the bar joist and then coming across this way. Just zip tied on. Here it is, zip tied across the ceiling. No natural gas in this building. And there's a 220 amp electrical heater in the truck room. And they just popped right into the bottom here. And here's the cutoff for the heater. They just tied into the bottom of it. This work was not permitted. And again, a common fire code violations, you cannot have flammable liquids inside of a space like this. You got an electric dryer, and now you've got flammable containers here. Not a good thing to store in a washroom. Another common fire code violation is having storage within 18 inches of this sprinkler head. Okay? So this building's got all kinds of problems. And then it had problems with all the fire extinguishers were out of date. But that's a fire code violation. And although the fire chief, Doug Fowler, said, hey, there's no problems over here. We're concentrating on the code stuff. This is the case log for the address. It shows the address right here. It's 8660 West State Highway 71. It's a 5.829 acre tract of land. The property owner is listed as not recorded, which is odd because this case log is an official government document. This is what they would go into court with to testify against somebody. So initially we found out the 311 assigns it to Alicia Tovar, but of course it was transferred to Todd Wilcox because they thought it might be a City of Austin building. So here you see the information where he said it was owned by Travis County, verified, and he just closes the case. Now, one of the things you're going to see is Mr. Wilcox has a tendency to not know what he's investigating or exactly which piece of property it is. So let's take a look at this. It's a 5.829 acre tract of land at this address. Let's look at his photos that he took. Here's his case photos. Well, he does have the fire station. This is the fire station right here. And he's 5'9". He took this photo of the fire station. There's the front door. You can see the fire station there. It says Austin Fire Department on there. Never went up and talked to anybody at the fire station. Just drove by and said, oh, I think this is a Travis County building. We're just going to close the case. So let's look at the property records here. We'll zoom this up. All right. This here is the Travis County property. This area right here is the fire station. So he said it was a 5.829 acre lot of land, and that does belong to Travis County, but he took photos of the fire station over here. Zoom in for you. He took photos of this area here, but conveniently he decided, wait a minute, this must be the property here. He verified that it was Travis County, so he said, hey, I have no jurisdiction. I'm going to close my case. This is City of Austin property. And again, here's the Travis County. This is the legal part of it here. Here's the legal description here. So he used the legal description from one property and tried to apply it to the City of Austin property to give the city a break. Now, this is the Austin Travis County Appraisal District. You can see here, let me make this a little bit bigger for you. It's 8660 West State Highway 71. The owner is clearly the City of Austin. Here's the tract of land here. Here is the tract of land with the aerial photo overlay. You can see that this here is a 0.5 acre lot. Acres 5 maybe. So it is a 5 acre tract, but it's a different lot than the Travis County one here. His photos were taken from right over here. He took photos of this, but he conveniently used this property and then just closed the case and said, hey, it's invalid. No violations found here. How is it that we have a division manager for the Austin Code Department that cannot do the simple task of identifying which property he's looking at and who the owner of the property is? Well, after we brought this to his attention, he went, oh, I made a mistake. And of course, he had no other course but to turn it in and add that fire station to the list of many other fire stations that have code violations. So is this an isolated incident? Let me show you this. Now we're over at 517 South Pleasant Valley Road. It's the end of Town Lake, Lake Lady Bird, whatever you want to call it, just before the Longhorn Dam. There's a sports complex over there, but there's a training facility there that I was privileged to, in 1986, when I joined the fire department, start out over there. So this building's been here well before 1986. And the day that I retired, I stopped by and I stuck my head in this door and I saw this makeshift drying room here. And you can see that they've got a pile of equipment here. There's a bunch of things plugged in. Kind of unique. They took an electric or propane heater, took it here and set it into the side of this thing. This is a big blower fan, and directed it into these pipes here to clean coats and pants and boots and things. However, they didn't get any permits to do any of this. Here you can see the intake for the squirrel cage fan. Here's the heater here. There's a cord back over here where you'd hook it up to a propane bottle. You can see all the plugs that are plugged into this multi-strip. Again, this is a code violation. Most outlets are good for about 20 amps. Look at all these fans and all this big equipment here, and it's not rated for that. Here you see a heater put into the ceiling, and again, this is a fire code violation, city code violation, when you can't cut holes in the ceiling like this, because this is, even though it's like a styrofoam product, it has a fire rating. And so the fire department, without the proper permits, put this thing in, screwed some fans to the ceiling, heated up this small cinder block space so they can create a drying room. This is the washer side of it here. Here's a hot water heater, and then a big commercial dryer, washing machine that they put in. So they would wash the protective turnout gear here and then take it into the next room and dry it. Of course, I don't know if they have any permits for all of this, because you can see there's some extensive plumbing. And again, you've got cords going up through the ceiling. So I turned this thing into the city of Austin. Let's see how they handled it. So here's the case log. You see the case over here. The status is closed. The complaint date was July the 8th. At this location, the Austin Fire Department has created a makeshift laundry facility and has done electrical work to install a commercial washing machine and has altered an adjoining room to create a heated drying room. There appears to be no permits for this work. Again, it was assigned to Mr. Matthew Noriega and then transferred to Mr. Wilcox, because he handles all of these City of Austin things. So let's look at this. I want to look at this here first, because it's going to tie into our last episode. He states that this is a 60-acre tract of land, 60.842 tract of land owned by the City of Austin at Westlake Boulevard. Here's the legal description of the property he claims he investigated. Okay, we'll get to this in the next document, but I wanted to bring that to your attention. So he gets it in July, but he doesn't go out until September. July 14th to September the 10th. July to August. August to September. Right? Yeah. So almost 2 months goes by. He says he inspected the location. He met with Chief Thayer Smith at the site. He informed me that the washing machine was installed during the remodel when AFD moved into the building in approximately 2004 timeframe. That's funny. We were in that building in 1986 when I was a cadet. He checked the permit history and found a building permit, electrical permit, and plumbing permits for an interior remodel of an existing storage room to convert it into a utility room. All permits were passed and final. He saw no evidence of a heated drying room. there's an empty room adjacent to the washing machine, but there was no equipment installed for drying. Now again, I turned this thing in. He waited almost 60 days before he showed up. Mr. Wilcox, when he gets these complaints for city departments, he gives the department head a list of violations and tells them, I'll be by in a couple of weeks, and we don't look at these things. That gives them ample time to clean up the areas. But he stated there was an empty room adjacent to the washing machine, no equipment there. This case are from the same room on the first floor of the building. This is not a valid complaint. So I've got photos of it. I know it was there. I turned it in. They wait 60 days. They informed the property owner, the fire department, that there's a problem. And then they show up and they go, hey, there's no photos. I mean, there's no problems here. Let's look at his photo log. This is the building in question. You can see that this is where they park underneath this structure here. This is the door leading into the laundry facility. Now, they didn't install this hot water heater sideways. This is Mr. Wilcox's case log. He's just too lazy to flip the photo up into the proper orientation. Here's the washing machine that you saw in my photos. But that's it. There's 3 photos. He didn't take a photo of the empty room if the room was empty. He claims it was empty, but yet you saw the photos of the equipment in it. And so this is what I said to council. Once I found out that he just closed this case, I started tearing this thing apart. And so this is what I said to city council, and nobody at council bothered to call me back. And so this is the Travis County Appraisal District. Now we're getting back to the other fire station thing. This is South Pleasant Valley. You can see this is a very small section here, South Pleasant Valley Road here. Town Lake is back over to this direction here. This here, if you look at it, is owned by the city of Austin. It's exempt property. It's Fire Training Academy and Training Facility here. This is the small thing here. And so this is the building. And it is approximately, let's see if this one gives an acreage. Doesn't give an acreage. It said it was built in 1990, but it was there when I was there in 86. But here's the important thing to remember about Travis County Appraisal District. There's a huge disclaimer that says all information contained herein is considered in the public domain and is distributed without warranty of any kind, implied, expressed, or statutory. The Travis County Appraisal District makes no claims, promises, or guarantees about the accuracy, completeness, or adequacy of this information, and expressly disclaims any liability for errors or omissions. So basically, they're saying it's just for information use. You can't use it for legal purposes. But yet, they do it all the time. And so here is the photos. I'm showing the council members the photos that I took. We talk about the hot water heater, the date it was in. You've seen all these photos. I actually had arrows explaining everything. You've seen all this. So here we talk about the case log and him using a 60-acre tract of land. But the problem is, that's not the tract of land. The tract of land is everything around it. It's this piece of property here. He's done it once again. He did it with Travis County before. At least this time he's stuck with City of Austin. The property we turned in was the white part here, but what he referenced was this part right here, although they're both owned by the City of Austin. Once again, a division manager for the Austin Code Department does not know which piece of property he's dealing with. So just to be sure that this property here is all baseball fields, just to be sure that he didn't go to the wrong building and maybe there were 2 laundry facilities here. Nope, 1 laundry facility. The rest of this is softball fields. Now here you can see Town Lake. Here's the dam here, for those of you not familiar with this. This is known as Craig Field. And then this is the area that we turned in. So again, his case logs get him into a court of law and he's going to look like an idiot. He doesn't know where he's at. And again, now we start talking about the timelines. Turned in July. He got it in July. He didn't come out until September. and it wasn't until October until he decided that there were no violations found. This case has got all kinds of problems, and it's very indicative of how the city of Austin looks at city of Austin property. They get some division manager who is going to give everybody a heads up. So when he shows up 2 months later, was it done or was it not done? But here's the big rub on this. Just before the end of 2014, so basically Todd Wilcox gives them a clean bill of health and says this thing is invalid, there's nothing wrong. And this is at October. But in late December, the fire department pulls 3 new permits. They apply for a building permit and electrical permit to create a washing and drying room at this location. Now again, Todd said all this was for a utility room. This is a big building. I think the work they did in 2004 was in another part of the building, and they just said, oh, well, we'll just call it this and close our case. Those permits don't have any room numbers listed on them. They're very vague. It did describe the space as being 283 square feet in the original 2004 permits. So the fire department turns around and pulls permits. So then after the fact, they can get their washing and drying room up to speed. And then months later, they get a mechanical permit because I don't know if they bought a new dryer or if they jerry-rigged the old system back up, but they had to get a mechanical permit in 2015 for that same space. So again, it's simply amazing that Mr. Wilcox will present all as well as an official case logs and that all the permits are in place and there's no code violations. But the minute all the smoke clears, the fire department rushes out and gets permits to get the work done legally. Is this really what we need in the Austin Code Department? Is somebody who looks after their employer and looks the other way and doesn't treat city departments the same as they would an apartment complex? Do you think Mr. Wilcox would do this to an apartment owner? Said, oh, you've got some code violations, we'll come by and see you next month. Or somebody who had a big manufacturing plant. One would hope not, but he clearly did that here. Okay, to close it up, I want to show you the permits. I like to show you all the facts. Again, this is a building permit. It's for the 517 South Pleasant Valley address. Interior remodel to existing fire station to create washer and dryer room, not to remodel. They're creating a washer and dryer room. Again, it's December 29th. They closed it in October, and they didn't even wait 2 months, and they decided, well, I guess we need to make this thing legal. So they got their building permit. At the same time, they had to get an electrical permit, 517. Same time, they got an electrical permit, and by September, again, this is December, they applied for it, issued in March, and finalized out in September of 2015. The third one has to be the mechanical. You need to have a vent system out, so they need a mechanical permit. And again, so before September, they pulled a permit for their mechanical to get that done, and by September 14th, they're legal. But if you were to ask Todd Wilcox or look at the code compliance case from 2014, hey, they were legal back then. There was no problem. Some days it's good to be the city of Austin. So in closing, again, this is Mr. Todd Wilcox, really nice guy. You can see that he's somebody of authority. He has a couple of gold stars on his collar and a big gold badge. He's not a police officer. He's a division manager for the Code Compliance Department. What I fear is happening here is that he doesn't have the proper training. The illusion of authority and of experience, but when you look at it, how can he not identify the proper parcel of land that he is investigating? And is it proper for the Code Department to change their policy when it comes to investigating suspected code violations on City of Austin property by giving departments a spreadsheet of the alleged violations and then waiting long periods of time before you show up, and then magically, hey, there's no violations here, you must be good, calling the case invalid and just closing the case. Is that a way to properly run a code compliance department? Well, if you're Director Smart, it is. Director Smart is not going to hold the city of Austin to the same standard that he's going to hold you or I or an apartment complex. Once you open that door, at what point does it extend to somebody else? Does it extend to Capital Metro? Does it extend to any other big businesses? If we're going to have a code compliance department, they have to treat everybody equally and everybody fairly.